The snow fell like ash across Luxembourg in January 1945, drifting over burned-out tanks and frozen trenches, muting every sound except the distant thud of artillery. The Battle of the Bulge was nearly broken, but American units were exhausted, frostbitten, undersupplied, and fighting in conditions that looked more like Siberia than Western Europe. And in the midst of this frozen hell, one man was preparing to issue an order no general expected. This single command, given in the middle of a collapsing battlefield, would stun every senior officer, slash through German retreat routes, accelerate the end of the Bulge, and once again prove why Patton was both feared and indispensable. On January 3, 1945, Eisenhower's field headquarters at Reims looked like a hospital for collapsing strategy. Maps covered every table. Phones rang non-stop. The air smelled of damp wool and cigarette smoke. War fatigue at its purest. Eisenhower stood over the central Ardennes map when Patton arrived, brushing snow from his collar. His face was red from the cold, his eyes sharp and restless. Eisenhower spoke first. "George, your army is at the breaking point." Patton removed his gloves, but didn't soften. "Armies don't break, Ike. They bend. And then they strike back." Omar Bradley, worn down and irritated, leaned against the table. "George, your men haven't slept in days. Ammunition shortages are critical. You can't keep pushing like this." Patton stepped closer, lowering his voice. "If we stop now, the Germans live to fight again. I'm not letting that happen." Eisenhower pointed to a narrowing section of the map. "The Germans are trying to pull back and regroup here. If we hit too fast, we risk overextending. I need a coordinated advance." Patton saw a trap closing. The tent fell silent. He spoke quietly, evenly, but with electricity beneath every word. "I propose we don't let the Germans withdraw at all. I propose we cut them off completely." Bradley's eyebrows shot up. "You want to encircle the entire German 7th Army?" "I do." A British colonel muttered, "Impossible." Patton turned his cold gaze on them. "No general expects it. That's why it will work." Eisenhower rubbed his temples. "George, your corps is exhausted. You can't launch another full offensive immediately." Patton allowed himself a thin smile. "My corps is already preparing." Bradley blinked. "Already? Ike didn't authorize anything yet?" Patton shrugged. "I don't wait for permission to prepare. I wait for permission to execute." Eisenhower stepped closer. "What are you asking for exactly?" Patton's voice hardened. "I want full operational freedom, no delays, no additional approvals. I want to drive 3rd Corps straight north and close the German escape routes before dawn." Bradley nearly choked. "Before dawn?" "That would require immediate movement," Eisenhower said in disbelief. "That's correct," Patton replied, "and no rest. Rest is for after we win." A tense silence swept the room. "George," Eisenhower said quietly, "if this fails, we will lose thousands of men. The political fallout could be catastrophic." Patton stepped forward. "If we don't strike now, Ike, we lose more lives later. Every hour we hesitate, the Germans slip away. I won't allow that." Bradley finally looked at Eisenhower. "He's going to do it anyway. Better to authorize it than let him improvise his way into it." Eisenhower exhaled, deep and tired. "George, issue your order." Patton turned to his chief of staff, General Hobart Gay. "Hobart, send this to every division commander in 3rd Corps. Final order. No sleep, no pause, no retreat. We advance at full speed. We cut off the German 7th Army before dawn." "Yes, sir," Gay whispered. Eisenhower shook his head. "You're asking them to march through ice, darkness, and German artillery." Patton slipped his gloves back on. "The Germans think we're regrouping. They think we're waiting. They think we're tired." He stepped toward the tent flap. "They're wrong." Patton left without another word. The flap slammed shut behind him. Bradley ran a hand across his face. "God help us, he's really going to do it." That night, Patton's order moved through frozen forests, passed hand to hand when radios froze, repeated in disbelief. American infantrymen were shaken awake. Tank crews scrambled into turrets. Artillery units loaded shells with numb fingers. Some cursed, some laughed at the insanity. Most simply said, "Patton wants it done." At 4:12 a.m., Third Corps began its impossible march north. By noon, they had moved 7 miles. By nightfall, they had cut the German supply road. By the next morning, they had closed the gap around Habscheid, sealing off nearly 44,000 German troops. Reports flooded Eisenhower's desk. Advances faster than predicted, German resistance collapsing, encirclement nearly complete. Eisenhower set down the report and whispered, "He did it again." Later, he wrote in his diary, "Patton saw weakness where we saw exhaustion. He gambled when others hesitated, and he was right." Bradley wrote privately, "I doubted him, I argued against him, and he proved me wrong again. No other general would have dared issue that order, only Patton." 2 weeks later, Eisenhower confronted Patton privately. "I need to know, George, did you issue that final order knowing what it would cost?" Patton didn't hesitate. "Every order I give could cost lives, but hesitation costs more. We win wars by moving, not waiting." Eisenhower sighed. "You'll never change, will you?" Patton smiled slightly. "No, that's why you keep me." Years later, Eisenhower reflected, "That order was pure Patton, reckless, brilliant. The kind of decision that breaks careers or wins wars. I can also generate an image of General Patton if you'd like."